Okay, well, we can get started.
When we're not there.
Okay, I call to order the Keizer Traffic Safety Bikeways Pedestrian Committee. It is September 19th. All right, first, approval of minutes from August. Do we have enough people here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Yes, you have a motion. I move that we approve the minutes of August 15th, 2024. I move we accept those, adopt them.
Do we have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Sorry.
And you weren't here.
I was not here.
You were not here. Okay. Any opposed? Any discussion? Was I supposed to discuss first? Okay, they've been moved, seconded, and approved. All right, appearance of interested persons. No, you're just here to listen? Okay, nothing to share. And Tammy Coons has given us a submittal, but I'm not quite sure. Let's see. She gave us a couple different ones, actually. The one in the agenda, or in the packet, I mean, she has proposed several safety measures throughout the city. And then it includes a letter from Liz. I'm not quite sure Liz's last name. But the two things that I wanted to draw attention to in the letter that was given us, the green lines for bike safety for the kiddos in the area, and that's like a bigger topic we're discussing. So unless there's something that somebody wants to say specifically to this letter, we'll just keep it open for our bike discussion. And then Little League, the parking and the traffic near the Little League parks. I'm gonna go take a look at that and see more about it. And then I figured the time will come where we have a good conversation about what that looks like. So does anyone have anything to say about that right now?
Ridge Road. Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's worth it. It'll be fun.
Okay. So that's all I wanted to bring up in the
Chair Tammy.
submittal. I'm sorry, yes, go ahead.
Ridge Road has continually been a challenge with tournaments and things because there's limited amount of parking. People park on the street and it's a no parking zone. They could be ticketed. They usually don't ticket them unless they're habitual, but it's been a problem for years, decades probably.
Is there a solution that we can eventually look at?
I would ask our police liaison that question.
Another point is who's responsible for the Little League
Well,
park up there? Is it the city or is it the group that runs it?
the group
I
that
don't know
runs it.
what group is that?
Oh, for the love of the
Softball,
game?
Little League.
For the love of the game is the name of the
Okay.
organization?
Well, Mike, maybe you could answer that, or somebody, maybe anybody could answer it. Is there 5 fields up there, is that correct?
There's more than that.
Okay, if somebody decided to reduce the number of fields and put in a parking lot instead, who would make that decision? Is it the city council or the baseball association?
That's a good question.
Because I just need to know that. I mean, who's in charge?
Is it a park? Is it a city park?
City councilor.
How about this? Oh, do you have a thought?
It's a city park.
True.
I think that we would face a little bit of objection from people that built the park to take a field out and put more parking.
But that was a long time ago. Correct?
The fields are still being used.
I think this should be talked to the Parks Department about then. They're the ones technically that oversee it. I guess we don't have a department. How about I go talk to them at their next meeting and bring it up and see if there's any
Well, ask,
thoughts?
the question is, if they're in charge of running the place, 2 things. One, what are they gonna do about the fact that they don't have parking? And if we ask, I don't know if you'd do it, but if we ask the police to enforce the parking rules for Ridge Road. 2, is what are they doing about the ADA access, which they've totally ignored since time began? I mean, those are two issues that I think would be important. And they may have similar solutions.
I like the way you're thinking. Yes, Counselor?
Thank you, Chair Salzbar. Now, the ADA one, I can address pretty easily. The park currently is ADA compliant because of the age of the park and the grandfather clause for certain things. If someone was to park in the southern parking lot by the big water tower, the road that goes from that parking lot down to the center of the field is of suitable grade to be ADA compliant. If they park in the parking lot that is gravel, it is until they get to the field, or to the field house, and then there's a big long thing. So if there were substantial changes made to the park, then we would be required to do some ADA upgrades. But in its current situation, we are ADA compliant.
And my whole point is, yeah, we may be ADA compliant, but we're morally in the wrong. We're still just almost impossible to have a wheelchair to get to some of those fields.
If you park in the
Gravel
paved
parking lot.
if you park in the paved parking lot, we are ADA compliant, and you can take a wheelchair down to the main fourplex, the main quad fields.
Okay.
To get down to the T-ball fields, that's gonna be a little more onerous, but it can be done. There have been situations where somebody needs to be at one of the fields, and there have been some allowances made where they can come down and park behind the field house for a limited period of time to unload someone that needs that ADA access. But as in its current iteration, it is ADA compliant.
Okay, thank you for that. Yes, go ahead, Dave.
I was just interested to, if the officer would respond to the earlier question that was raised.
Well, yes, it is constantly an issue.
Okay.
It's usually in the evenings and weekends.
Yeah, thank you.
It is an issue and has been for years. There is literally no parking and not enough parking for especially the 5 fields. Yeah, removing one field and making a parking lot would solve a lot. I don't know if there's any way, right now, without somewhere creating a parking lot, there is no solution.
There are 12 fields.
12 fields?
Yeah.
Yes, Mike.
The church parking, are they allowing people to park there, or is it people are doing it?
They are probably doing it. I don't know if they've allowed it. I did see a sign, the last time I noticed that it was for church parking only.
Okay. In the church lot?
Yeah.
Right.
With 12 fields, I would estimate there's probably enough designated parking lot to sustain the parents of, say, 3 or 4 fields, because you've got parents from, if they're doing a back-to-back game, you've got double the teams, double the parents per field, and that's really probably all the parking that they could hold, much less 12.
So anyway, yes, put it on we need to look at that. Since baseball season's basically over, isn't it? We're not in any big rush to.
There's some fall ball stuff that'll be going on,
Yeah.
but
Okay, this has been brought to this committee multiple times now, I feel, so we really need to see if there's something to offer, or else it's just gonna keep coming to us, and which is fine, but yes, Mike?
This is, if we're gonna be, throwing everything at the wall for ideas, I guess my idea was maybe there's that other church that's down around the corner.
The north side?
I don't know the name, but
Okay.
it's, yeah, but, what's that?
Church on the Hill?
Down closer towards Verda, so right on that corner. I don't know if there could be an agreement with them and then use a school bus for a shuttle or something to shuttle people up to the fields or something. But I guess my point with that is let's think of every solution that we can. and try to be creative.
I agree with the creativity. That is something that's outside of, I think, our realm.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I think you would
I'm
do
looking
this.
at whatever we as a city can
Well,
come up with. It's,
if it's a city park,
Right.
and it's a city park issue, and we have to come up with a solution, it sounds like. There's an untenable situation right now, and that's why I think, like, I think if it's a city park, the city has a responsibility to come up with any solution.
I'm gonna go talk to the parks.
See what what their
And-
plan is.
Right, see if this has been brought to their attention and what they've discussed.
Yeah.
And go from there. So let's, so next month I will not be here. Mike's gonna run. Do you want it to be on the agenda and I'll just give you information to share, or should we put it out for 2 months
Well,
to share the follow-up?
if it's just sharing the follow-up, I can do that, but if we're gonna have a discussion, because you said Shane's gonna be here that night, so that might,
Take a lot of
Take a
time.
lot.
We can do it in November,
Okay,
yeah.
let's plan
December.
for November's agenda,
December.
follow up to that.
Well, if maybe we need to move the December date up.
We're gonna cancel December.
Well, then, so we really wouldn't be talking about it until January.
Unless we do November.
You're right. No, wait. Yeah, November. We still have November.
But you're not gonna be here.
No, I will not be here October.
Isn't the third
Oh,
Thursday,
which month is,
November, Thanksgiving?
oh, today's only September.
Don, where does
Oh, when you're
Thanksgiving fall
retired,
with
what do
our
you know? Oh,
November?
is summer over?
Where does Thanksgiving fall with our November meeting?
It's the week before, for you, it's the week after. So you're on Thursday, November 21st, and the next, Thursday is Thanksgiving.
Okay, so we have a November meeting date.
Okay,
Excellent. We'll plan on that. So yes, there's still
Okay.
another month in there. Next month, October, I will not be here. Okay. Okay, so that was the one submittal. The other one that Tammy shared with us,
oh,
just,
excuse me, I have one other thing.
yes,
I'll check with City Hall. I vaguely recall when they were, for whatever they started putting those apartments, the home in, down off, not Ridge Road, it wraps around to the north, what's that big development? That we had an agreement that we wouldn't allow any baseball parking on the streets that abutted their property. I heard that, and so I would like to investigate that.
well, if they haven't brought it
There's
up,
parking places down on the north side that are not being used because we discourage it.
okay. How are we discouraging that? How's
Told
that
nobody to
message?
park there, put in no parking, I don't know, I have to go up and look. I just remember that from when it went in, that they were concerned that people would, well, the baseball people will park in our front yard or in front of our buildings. They were concerned about that.
But that
I don't
hasn't,
know if, were you here then, around then, Counselor?
I have no recollection of that agreement.
I don't know if it was an agreement or just what ended up. I'll find out.
okay. But if they haven't brought any complaints, then maybe there's no
But maybe
concerns.
nobody's parking there.
Right, so either way, it's
Yep.
it's a good thing. Okay, so the other submittal was, from Tammy Coons for the Community Crossing Guard Program. And this, I don't think involves us, but it's good for us to know about it.
Which one?
The Community Crossing Guard Program, it was just sitting here. You should have it in
Yeah.
front of you.
My recollection is the crossing guards are paid employees of the school district.
You shake and said yes.
Excuse me, isn't that correct?
Yes.
So when you talk about having a volunteer, you better be working with the school district, whoever's coordinating. I mean, that's their bailiwick, right?
I agree. So I will respond to Tammy and find out more about this and, make sure she's working with the schools on what she's proposing here.
Yeah. It would seem the first step is you'd ask the school district to put in a crossing guard. And then they would say yes or no. And the no, the yes, we don't have a problem. If they say no, because we don't have any money, then the volunteer thing, I don't know where that puts that.
I don't either. I chatted with a crossing guard today, because I went and checked out the new flashing beacon. They have an online training program they have to do first. So there's a lot more to this than I see in this proposal, which is why I will, chat with her to make sure that she's
Okay.
aware of what needs to be looked
Yep.
at. Okay. Excellent. And no one new is in the room, so moving on to number 4, the spreadsheet. Which is apparently like well-known in the city, because I'm getting commented on by other city staff, almost in a teasing way, that I talk about this all the time. Okay, starting with our active projects. All right, Verda and Shamawa. Mike, we wanted to ask you about this because I was unclear when I finally looked at what this actually said. It was listed as a flashing sign notifying cars of the roundabout.
Yeah, I'm not sure where that flashing came from. I know we put speed signs underneath the advisory signs. And then there is about a 10-inch amber flashing beacon as you're coming into town and you turn the corner, it's notifying there's a corner, and then it has a roundabout advisory sign. But the other 3 legs are pretty darn, I mean, they're very visible and you can see what's in front of you. And so I, again, drove it today wondering if flashing meant, did someone have an idea to put them on those 4x4 posts? And I was gonna say, I don't feel it's needed. I think that advance warning is plenty as you come up to that, so. But I did do some research on the cost of that.
Thank you for looking at that. Because, yeah, when I went and looked at it, that was my thoughts also. So I think we can move this to complete, because whatever has been installed, I think is what this was identifying, and we're past that.
Well,
And it-
Mike, since you said you did the research and found out how much they cost, roughly,
It'd be about 10 grand to do the 3 other signs,
so about 3,500 apiece.
correct?
So if we ever want to put a flashing sign somewhere, that's,
So instead of, this is not a flashing sign, this is a yellow amber LED beacon
Beacon,
with
yeah.
solar on top, as opposed to like
Okay.
a flashing sign that rotates around
right,
warning or has, the lights.
okay.
And I'm not sure the cost on that.
Okay, so a flashing beacon's about 3,500, ballpark figure.
Yeah.
And that flashing beacon, is that continuously flashing or is that?
24/7.
Oh,
Yep.
Any other thoughts on this one?
No, that's,
Perfect, okay. Next one is the new flashing beacon at Lock Haven. We have it near McNary, but we actually now know it's at, what's the road, McClure?
McClure.
McClure. Can we change that to be more clear? Thank you. This is the one I went and I looked at today, and I chatted with the crossing guard who was there at the time. I'm so glad we have one there. There's so many people that cross. It was very impressive to see the use that was being, yes.
How's it working with the crossing guard and kids around the push button and whatnot? I was curious how that,
So when I arrived, because I just live up the road, I walked down there and I got there ahead of the crossing guard, ahead of school getting out by just a minute or two. And so as I'm standing there, a couple kids got there before the crossing guard, and one little boy was gonna cross the road. I think he even forgot about the button because he started to cross and then he recognized he wasn't supposed to, and then he went back, and meanwhile the crossing guard was coming up the road and she yelled to him to wait for her, and he did. So
so is the crossing guard using that at a time when it's time to cross, to press that, to get cars to understand they're crossing the street? I mean, because before that was there, the crossing guard, the person would put the sign up and they, the
that's
flag and cross the street.
yes.
So now they're utilizing that to notify,
Yes,
right?
yes,
Which
yes.
makes sense,
what she was doing, she would press the button and then, making sure the cars stop, which they're not always at first because they're not used to it. And then she'll enter the roadway and she'll have her flag, and then she'll let the mass of people cross, because there was a good, I don't know, dozen each time. It was impressive to see how many. And so a couple things I wanted to bring up tonight was, yay, it's successful. However, since she was questioning the fact the cars weren't stopping, she wondered if the lights were bright enough. So is that standardized? Okay, that's what I thought, but I said I'd check with you. Then they're just not aware of it. And also the timing, is that standardized?
Yeah, in fact, it's 21 seconds, I think, and so they finished the day before school started, which is good, because the deadline was that day. And pressed it a couple times and walked, and I walked rather slowly, and I thought that time could be slower, but then I talked to our traffic engineer with DKS, Scott Manser, and he said, no, it's right in there. And it's even, I won't say it's high, but it could have been less than that. So I was like, oh, okay, well, if we're right in there. That timing can be changed for longer, but like I said, I looked into it and they said, no, it's right where it should be for the width of that road and the speed of the road and so on and so forth, so.
And it wasn't bad, but because of the volume of people that were crossing, she's in the road, the lights are done flashing.
Yeah.
She's still standing there, so traffic is not progressing because they've recognized that. So it's doing its job by stopping traffic initially and then allowing her to enter. But it is definitely timing out before everybody is finished crossing.
So there's a range, and I have it written somewhere in a Mikey note, but yeah, I can talk to Scott and we can bring it up some if that's.
So as she and I were chatting, and then when I was done with the conversation and I was walking away, I said, okay, as I'm gonna cross the road now to leave, I'm gonna push the button and you can look for yourself how long it is. And so she did that, and then she yelled, it was 15 seconds is what she told me that she timed it at. So that doesn't match what you said, and whether she just didn't notice the time or if they changed it. But,
No,
and it might not be an issue at all either, because it was, and I don't want us to extend it all the time, because then on off hours, it's gonna be significantly too long.
I don't think there's a time
Okay,
for that. If we extend it, that's what it's going to be.
that's what I thought, that's what I
Unless
thought.
I go there many times during the day and change
No,
it.
no, no, I'm not asking you, that's what I expected you to say, yes.
Well, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that time is supposed to be one person push and how long it takes one person to walk across the street, not people following people in a large group. So if there's
And that's probably right, yeah.
never gonna be enough time for the group to get across. Just you're literally looking at the first people. If they get across, then it's the right amount of time.
Then it meets that goal for
But
sure.
if she's out there with the flag and she's got them stopped
Yes, yes.
for 10 seconds, and she's still standing out there with her flag, I don't think they're gonna run her over.
No, I agree, and they're not, I
And
just
so
said
it
I would
may-
bring it
if
up
it
and
takes
ask.
them, if it takes them 30, yeah, once it's stopped, we just let it go. She's there.
Yes, and so, like
they're
I
not
said,
gonna run her
it seemed
over.
to be working fine for that once.
Okay.
The cars
For
were not
morning.
progressing when the light stopped if she's standing in the roadway.
Okay.
However, the bigger concern that she brought to my attention, we moved the stop bar back significantly because of the new ramps, good 20 feet almost. So cars they're not able to stop in a spot where they can see the intersection well enough, and there's a lot of traffic all at one time. And so she said that was kind of concerning. And the buses, as they're coming out of the school, they cannot see the flashing light because of the fence. So they're progressing even though the lights are flashing and there's people. So that's another, I told her I would ask you if between your two units, if you can just one day go observe the same thing I observed and see if you see concerns or any solutions that can be. They're not major problems, but I just said I would bring them up. And then the last concern was people who are coming off of Lock Haven, turning right to go to McNary Estates are getting frustrated with the amount of cars that are backed up to go into the school. I know this isn't a city thing, it's more of a school thing. And I was not in a position to actually see what the configuration was that we were experiencing, but she said for sure, she's noticed now over the course of time, she's been there for however many days. They're forming two lanes now in the one lane next, you know what I'm talking about. So the cars that need to go into the school and are stopped are on the right, and then those who want to continue on are going in the main lane. And she says they're really risking what they're doing there to make that happen in such a narrow area. I don't know if this is the solution or if the school can open up more of what they have their line of cars at. Again, I don't know how that looked, but they're backing up all the way to the intersection itself, creating dangerous situations. Now, the pedestrians seemed fine. I didn't have concerns there, but the traffic for sure, I could see some rear ends happening eventually.
Yeah, I can speak to a little bit of both. I have not went by and looked at the new ramps yet. But I do know the stop bars are designed, even though you're supposed to stop there for pedestrian safety. And then if you can't see, then you can proceed slowly. up before you can enter. That's the design of a stop bar. So it sounds like it might be still working, then they just have to then go creep forward once they know it's safe to be able to see to turn. As far as the schools and the creation of 3 lanes when there should only be 2, I don't know of a school in Keizer that doesn't do that.
Okay.
Gubser, I was out there the other day for the exact same thing on 14th. And it is, quite frankly, it's outrageous, but I don't know how to enforce it because they're not parking.
Right.
They're just pulled over and still in there. Parking means you park and leave your car. That would be an issue. But they're just in line waiting, and some of them, the school said some of them will be in line there for an hour.
In the
But
morning or in the
in the afternoon, they said the afternoon is the worst one. And I was there, and yes, they were going around the residents, which is, it's not fair that they get blocked out of their street. And as long as they're doing it slowly and safely, I don't know of another solution other than a school issue.
Right, okay. No, none of that's surprising what you said, and I agree, and I wasn't asking for an enforcement.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's more of the school, if they have a way to allow more traffic in a different part of their parking lot, but anyhow, I said I'd bring all this up, to us tonight, and so I have, and then Mike, if you need to go look at any of what I described there, again, I don't know if it's something that needs to be solved.
For the timing or
No, timing's fine, timing's
Oh.
fine.
then the stop bar and the stop sign?
It is what it is, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And I did reach out to the school themselves to ask if they have any feedback to share also, and I did not get a hold of anyone today, and I only just called this morning. Did you have something?
Couple things. One about, I don't know how it is around Keizer Elementary, but your Gupser, my kids used to go there. They were there parked for a long time, and not only were they parked there for a long time, but a lot of them are sitting there idling. So it's just like pumping out pollution while kids and the few people that do walk and the people who live there are just sitting there sucking that all in. And I always thought I know Gupser at one point had a no idling sign on campus, but it was right by the school, like right in front of school. So I don't know, I'd like to see the schools be a little stronger about not having cars just sitting there idling.
Well, this wasn't, I mean, literally I was there maybe 10 minutes.
Well, Gupser is a long time.
Okay.
Maybe it's because of where it is, they just feel like it's easier to show up earlier and just kind of park in line in the queue. The other thing is, so with Lock Haven, we've got that turn lane that goes the whole length of it, but there's a lot of Lock Haven in that stretch that it's not necessary because there's no place to turn into. Could we, for like McClure, take out the turn lane there and then put in some type of shoulder lane for cars to pull off into, so now you're not having to, if you are gonna queue up, at least you're out of the way, because I imagine it's queuing up far enough that it's probably starting to affect.
I did not witness any parked on Lock Haven in a queue, but they were getting close to the intersection.
Right, so it's only gonna, I would imagine it would only get worse, especially as the weather gets worse, because then people are less likely to walk and.
Well, I'm willing to keep an eye on that.
Yeah,
Yes.
I was trying to remember where, it was the Clear Lake Elementary's down by where I live. And I went down there, and it used to be a real mess. And then the school, the principal, worked, I guess, with the parents or PTA. And they said they've made the parents wait in line down the street to the north. Otherwise, so they were backing up into Park Meadow, 2 blocks away, and causing a problem there. And so they told the parents, we want you to, if you're picking up your kid, we want you to go to that east-west road right north of Clear Lake. I can't remember what it is. There's a fence down there somewhere. Anyway, but they did actively do something to have the parents go somewhere else, and they did, which is good news.
No, that's great, idea. I know we're limited because there's a gate, if I recall, that prevents us from going the other direction.
Mary's
Yeah.
Gate, yeah.
Yeah, so, but with all that said, though, this is part of my neighborhood association, so I'm going to continue to talk to the school through that mechanism, and if there's concerns, we'll just see where it goes. Do we agree that that's an approach here?
Yep.
Okay.
I think we should leave this thing about traffic patterns around the schools. Have it come up again, because I've heard complaints before about just about every school. Actually, I had somebody call me from Kennedy about people parking on their lawn.
Tell them to come here, and if we
Yep.
can tape, hear what's going on, we can start watching for
Yep.
that. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, it's like it's a vicious cycle in that you've got, you got lots of cars, so people feel less willing to have their kids walk or bike, which means there's more cars, which people feel less safe. And I think you have to break the cycle, and if we could start getting more safe routes to school projects completed, I think that could help break that cycle.
Well, we're gonna do our part with the grants. So I think, we could just move this to, we don't need to keep it active now that it's installed. Or do we wanna monitor it? I know we usually do 3 months later. We'll keep it for the 3 months. So it was in,
Yeah, now the school's open. we should-
yeah, so November, we should hear more on it. We'll get feedback. I'll have feedback by then too from the school. All right, thank you. Moving on. Okay, Alder F. Brooks, we had Don Davis come last month to talk to us, gave positive feedback. And I know, Officer Powell, you've been out, so you were unable to look into this further to give us feedback from your perspective. Is it something we?
Try to get the survey put out, early next week, because I have to do it for a week.
Okay.
And this is my first week, full week back, so.
Okay, no, that's great. We're hearing great things, so really, if you can just get us data by next, meeting, perfect. Thank you.
Chair Tammy.
Yes, sir.
Chair Tammy, I attended the Southeast Neighborhood Association, and they talked quite a bit about the flashing lights and how the flashing light and the speed monitor, and how they have noticed a significant change in the number of people that are speeding through there, and that they very much appreciate that being there, and they feel it's working well.
Excellent. That's what we want to hear.
How many, I've still sit in the same spot, periodically on Alder, and it's now boring.
That's what we like. We like boring. That is excellent. That's why we do what we do.
You'll have to find a new spot.
Right. Okay, so moving on, signs along the bike path. Hirsch was gonna talk about this. He is unable to be here today, so let's push this out to next month to see if he has anything to offer. I printed my own ones up. We have, yeah.
Can I make just a comment about that? And when Hirsch comes back, we'll talk about it again, but it just seemed to be nice if we had a written, instead of a verbal proposal, quote, contract with ODOT about what was going to be done, or what we're asking to be done, including how many signs, where they're gonna be, what's on each sign, so that when they say no, we can bring it back the next year and submit it again.
Okay, I like
And
this
something
one.
like that that's written instead of kind of a verbal agreement with them. That makes sense to anybody but me?
No, it makes sense. So does Hirsch, the one been spearheading that proposal? Okay, then let's.
Well,
plan
I
it.
will need to do it today, but
No, but when
at
he
some
comes
point.
back, we can.
we need it written out. So if they have a change in people, which they do at ODOT, we could resubmit it.
Okay, I like this plan. Okay, moving on, we have River Road intersections by the schools and Chemawa going to McNary. I don't know if they all printed out. You may not have that. I don't know if all the pages are printing every time. I brought my own.
Yeah, I don't have that.
No, we're not talking Candlewood yet. This is actually a different one. This was the changing of the 5-second timing to 2 or 3 seconds for pedestrians. I don't think it's in the packet.
My the page numbers are matching, or in line, I'm not like, oh, there's 17, there's 19, that's 18.
Oh, it's not in the packet. Okay, I'll stop looking.
Yeah.
Right, I don't think it's in the packet, but it's on our list. Do we have any information on the 5-second timing?
This was the crosswalk delays on River Road, correct? Okay, just making sure. Yeah, I did talk to City of Salem, traffic engineer last week and let him know that we're interested in a delay along River Road. And he said, okay, first thing they're gonna do is establish their program and then work on ours. And we didn't go into detail what that meant to establish their program, but they're gonna put something in play. And again, then fold that into us. And he said it would happen in the next few months. And that, I said that, I should have just said 6 months or, I'm not sure. I haven't worked a lot. I'm not saying it won't happen, but next few months seems very hopeful. So I have it on my calendar as a reminder to ask again in a month and a half and just say, hey, where are we at? So.
Okay, then we'll just keep this here pinned until we hear from you, and at some point we may ask you where we're at with it.
Correct.
Does that work? Okay.
Yeah.
So we're waiting on Salem. The note can be done, waiting on Salem.
Well, thank you.
I have a question.
Mhm.
So, is there a reason why, say a pedestrian comes up to an intersection, right? And they press the button, they may have to wait for, say, One Direction's turning, then going straight, and then finally the next cycle for it to turn for them to walk. Is there a way or a reason why we can't have it where the pedestrian walks up to an intersection, presses the button, once the current green light goes to red, that it doesn't automatically just allow that pedestrian to go? It kind of like, instead of putting the pedestrian behind a couple of spots of, vehicle, trying to think of the proper way of saying
Vehicle
it.
cycles.
Well, yeah, so rather than the cycles of,
In the queue.
yeah, basically putting, basically giving the pedestrian the priority. They hit the button, and so once that current direction ends, they supersede whatever green light was gonna happen.
I do know that there are certain turns that the pedestrian isn't going to be crossing for safety reasons, because that turn is gonna be blinded. That's part of why it's getting into a certain cycle in the queue, if you wanna say. It has to be a certain lane that is closed to then allow that pedestrian to cross.
Right, so I'm thinking, so instead of that, so the pedestrian hits the button, and instead of having that turn lane get the green light to go, the pedestrian then gets to go, has their time, whatever the walking man's sign's time would be, and then the green light to turn would go. So if it's like, say it's a 14-second pedestrian go signal, they get that, and then the turn lane kicks on.
So City of Salem is the experts on this, and they look out for safety, and they're the ones that do the programming. So I don't have an answer for that. I think they just go from their history and what they've used and their data as far as assessing that and putting that in our intersections. It's a good question, but
Yeah,
I don't know the answer,
if you
Mike.
could, maybe next time you're talking to them, if there's some reason behind that, why it is the way it is versus, is there any legal reason or statute reason why it couldn't be that way?
That should be safety.
yeah, safety.
Well, I mean, you could throw that word out and say it's not safe, but I guess if that's true, I'd like to see the data behind it.
You can always call the city of Salem manager or the, traffic engineer
Well,
and ask
I
questions.
tried that one time, he never called back, he called Mike, but he didn't call, he didn't call this Mike, he called that Mike.
Oh,
And you're right, Chair, thank you. I would definitely try that again, Mike, because you're gonna get it, I'm gonna be taking notes all over the place, and then I'm gonna come back and fumble that. Or, you know, you'll get the gist of it, but you might reach out again, I can give you, Eric Decibel's number, and you can,
Yeah, if
Ask a
you could,
question.
that'd be fine, I'll try again.
it's possible to get the
Harass
wrong
them more.
message. Okay, so if you learn anything, bring it back, let us know.
Will do.
Awesome. Okay, green paint for Lock Haven and River Road. I happened to read in the manager's report. Did you want to share? I don't want to steal your thunder.
No.
Okay. That they looked into this and it will cost for that location, and I don't know exactly the length that was asked for, because there's a lot of real estate over there to paint, $29,550.
For the study.
No, for the paint.
Paint.
So, Bill Lawyer's working with the city on, if they're gonna do it and when and which budget and so on, it sounds like.
So that's the Lock Haven River Road intersection.
But again, I don't know what the proposal was, how much of a bike lane they were, do you know more details on that?
it's the hash marks as the bike lane goes away from the curb, and you have a right turn, and cars can go through, and it's to paint that green area. Each section's about 100 feet long, I'll just say, give or take, and that's just to paint out, so as a bicyclist go, or a car see that, hey, there's something up. And just to clarify, it's not just painting green paint. There's a lot more to the application. It's a two-part deal. They put in an abrasion, an abrasive in it, so it's non-slip, because if you just go paint it green, that wouldn't work. So that, with the application, brings the cost up, so.
So it's
and
includes
that's-
the labor.
Those bike lanes on.
It's the hash mark areas
the east
on
side of River Road?
Lock
Both
Haven and
sides?
River Road. It would be on the,
All
it'd be
four?
on the east side and the west side, and the south side, because there isn't anything on the north. So
Okay.
three legs on that one, and on Shamawa, it would just be on the west side, and only on that west side, on the north side, because the other one's just kind of a bike lane that just
Yeah.
turns into a car lane, kind of, so.
Is there a bike lane on River Road heading north towards Lock Haven?
Yeah,
There is?
yeah,
Right past the bus stop.
the bus stop by,
On River Road, stops at Creekside Shopping Center.
yeah, so the bike lane starts, I believe, by the Walgreens, just north of Chamawa.
Ah, I didn't think it was wide enough. Okay, I'll look again.
So that 29,000, then that would be the cost of the entire
Paint.
paint and labor and all that?
Yes, for those
For the-
5
right.
areas, yeah, exactly.
And they said, what did the city say?
So Bill's recommendation was, right, it's kind of early in the budget right now. So it went in, City Manager Adam Brown's staff report or council report that's just suggesting, brought it out to them and said, suggest waiting till spring of this fiscal year or put it in next fiscal year budget to do. So that was Public Works recommendation.
And the council agreed.
Oh,
And
Excellent.
were we all in agreement that the Shamawa River Road intersection would require an engineering study?
There's a lot more to that.
A lot more to that intersection, which would involve a lot more money than,
Because of the turn lane, the bike lane just stops in a turn lane, and so.
did we decide we didn't want to ask for it because it was too complicated? Or that we should ask for it and
there's no room.
be prepared to get denied? I mean,
I remember we were gonna say to hold off on that one and do the lowest of low hanging fruit first.
okay.
Now, I would still like to get that part of Lock Haven to be consistent with all the rest of Lock Haven in tree and width.
Wait, what are we talking? I thought we were talking Chamawa and River.
Well, right, but I'm saying.
Well, we're
we were
talking about
Lock Haven too,
painted
right?
bike lane.
Right, so if we were
Where do we
gonna
need them?
do the bike lane, I still would like I guess I'd be surprised that we'd have to do an engineering study to make a road consistent with all the rest of the road.
But
Well,
I'm
what
not
are we
gonna
not
argue
doing?
with them about it.
So the width,
Oh, the width part.
yeah, so
Okay.
shifting the bike lane and creating a driving lane that is consistent.
So we need to bring that up again this winter before budget season, whether or not we wanna request that item put in next year's budget. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, although, maybe Mike, you know, that what DKS said was the $15,000 for the study. We had Lock Haven and Chamawa in there. So I'm not clear, maybe you all are, if we have to do a study to make the driving lane for Lock Haven consistent.
So there was some confusion in that when Hirsch talked to City of Salem and talked about the green paint. And no, a traffic study does not need to be done to put down, it's not green paint, but apply that. What the study needs to be done, if you're changing a current bike lane, that needs the study done and these plans drawn up. We won't just decide, hey, it's gonna go out here and we're gonna put a buffer lane and so on and so forth. So that cost for Lock Haven was $8,500. That was the bigger of the two. That's what that is involving, so,
So that would need a study? is what
Yes.
you're saying, yeah, okay,
and then along with the Schmau one also,
yeah.
that's where you got the 15.
Yeah, the Chamawa one I always figured needed something just because it's.
Can I ask that, Mike? Where's the scenic, did the Willamette Valley Scenic Bikeway change its route through Keizer? Or does it still come up
It's
and go through the intersection at,
It's
River
the
Road?
same, because we get the updates, and we're the ones that put the signs out, and so I haven't put any out in quite a few
Right,
years.
so it's right there at Umpqua Bank,
It goes through Manbrin. It goes through Manbrin over to Cherry and up Cherry.
I
okay,
believe
I'm
on
just
the,
saying is if we're looking at putting in paint to help people get through River Road, then the Willamette Valley Scenic Bikeway should be one of our,
I
think
believe
it's
the scenic bikeway is down on Shoreline or, so it's not up there. It goes down,
it comes up to Cherry though.
it does on the south end, yes,
At Manbrin.
at Manbrin.
Manbrin?
Manbrin where the Elks Club
Is that,
Where the Elks Club is, in the bay.
yeah, in the bank. Is that Manbrin? Okay. Why did I think it was something else?
I ride the Lock Haven River Road intersection not infrequently, particularly going east. And also Chamawa River Road, particularly going west. And to me, they're both fairly safe. And certainly at Chamawa, we often are trying to give the car room, but it results essentially in taking the turn lane when we're there. So basically, when the bike lane ends, you move out and you're taking the lane. So it simply means that, and so far drivers have been very nice about it. They wait until the light turns, we go on, and then they turn right. The intersection that to me is dangerous is McLeod and Chamawa as you're coming west. So Chamawa at McLeod, right after McLeod, Chamawa loses a lane and reduces. And so you have cars, some cars that are going straight, some cars that are turning right onto McLeod, and you just have a bike lane that comes up to the intersection, continues on the other side of the intersection, and I've had time, and cars are going relatively quickly, and they will right hook you, turning onto McLeod. Anyway, that to me is the intersection that, as a cyclist, is a higher priority. I mean, knowing what happens there now, I go with a great deal of caution to that intersection, but it's not a safe intersection for a cyclist.
There'll be a traffic signal there at some point.
McLeod and,
Shamawa. Once,
No, there's a signal there now. No?
McLeod and Chamel.
It's kind of hard, and there's, Lock Haven turns into Schmal, but there's another piece of the Schmal, and you're talking that one
Oh,
by the retirement center that backs, then it goes over to Ridge Drive to the Little League fields.
I'm probably west of there. And you're right, there may be a light there now.
I'm talking about the one on Lock Haven and Mike's.
Yeah, it's like Lock
Correct me,
Haven.
Zane.
I don't know if it's
Because of-
Chamau or Lock Haven, but it's where you lose a lane
Yeah,
on,
that's Lock
on
Haven.
Chamawa,
What he said.
or Lock Haven, yeah.
That's Lock Haven.
So,
I think the McLeod threw me for a loop. Okay.
I think,
Thank you.
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
I don't think,
Well, that's right there by the baseball fields.
Yeah.
There is a light, but so you've got a green light, you're going, as a cyclist, you're going straight. There are people going through that green light are gonna turn right onto McLeod, and they're also going straight, realizing they're about to have to merge left.
So,
And it's a dangerous spot for a cyclist.
yeah, I can't think of
Don't
an
be
easy solution to that one.
the streets play name games there sometimes, and so it can get confusing with the Lock Haven, Chamel.
No,
Got it.
I'm with you
Okay.
now when you said,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's frustrating because there is a safer interchange just east of there that goes into an empty field, so there's no action there.
Well-
But it's where you have the bike lane with, a clear crossing area going over, and there's a right-hand turn lane, currently not going into anything. But something like that is really what's needed up at the next intersection.
On McLeod.
Well, it's at Lock Haven and McLeod, yeah.
Well, I suspect
Well,
as
I'd
the,
want, I'm looking at it, and since I spent a lot of time up on Ridge Road, if you use that biking, I've never seen anybody with a bicycle up there on McLeod between Lock Haven and the baseball fields. But just must be at an odd time.
We're in different areas.
What are we talking about?
We-
McLeod and Chamawa.
Well, yeah, I steered you wrong by saying that area, but you have to go north of that, and then we're talking Lock Haven coming into town, right up to McLeod. That section where the big field is on the north side, that
Yeah.
was gonna be a
Okay, up there,
radiology
yeah.
place,
There was.
where that pad is, and yeah, that's where.
so I suspect as that development happens and things progress, that there will be an improvement there. Is probably the earliest we'd see that. But we'll keep it on our radar. I'm glad you brought this up and I'm glad you're not hurt. Keep letting us know. Okay, so on the topic of green paint, before I add two more things to our list. Last month, we discussed putting together a list of the locations that we would request green paint because we keep throwing all these random places out, but we need to really get organized before we can go to city council with any sort of questions. Who's working on that?
like who's leading it or who's coming up with it? Or are we?
I was wondering if somebody's putting it on paper.
Oh, I just have come up with some ideas, but I haven't put it on paper. I mean, did you?
Would you mind leading that then?
Yeah.
If anyone else has places they want to add to your list, and then we'll have a clear list of what it is we're even asking for?
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay, so to our active project list, two have been brought to my attention. One came through email, email sent to Mayor Clark. She included me in that at Harmony Drive, and I believe you're already in the loop on this one for a speed study?
Yeah, I actually, was out there yesterday and spoke with the people that emailed Mayor Clark directly. Which we've been there before and done previous surveys, and occasionally we go out there. So yes, we were out there doing some enforcement yesterday. In the short time that we were there, yeah, there was a couple that were speeding, some of them well speeding. But yes, we'll conduct a survey after I finish the one on Alder.
Okay, so you want us to keep this on the list and work through the process?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Don, I'll get you the details if you don't have them. And then lastly it was brought up in our neighborhood association, the Willow Lake parking issue. I was hoping Hirsch can
Willow
speak.
Lake?
Parking. But we'll
Willow Lake Golf, where?
I don't know, it's on the Willow Lake Road. Parking, we were limited on where we can limit parking? No? Yeah,
I thought that got taken off a while ago. I looked into it.
it was taken off our list, but it was brought up, excuse me, to the neighborhood association, and so I thought,
Well, we did no parking on there from that driveway to the east
Mm-hmm.
on the north side of the road, and then looking in, I didn't really see much of a problem at that time,
Okay,
so.
then I'll go back and let them know. And I remember us talking about this before, but since it has come back up, I said I would bring it up. I'll find out more about this to know if something new has developed to bring forward. Yes, sir?
I was just curious, is it that people are like wanting to keep parking, like takeaway spots, or too many cars parking, or it's impinging on the road?
I think the latter. I think that's, but I really, not much details brought up because we know Hirsch, is well aware of all this. And so I'm counting on him to fill in the blanks for me, but he was not there last night to do so. Yes, Dave?
Officer, how close to a corner, just a standard intersection corner, how close to the corner can I park before I'm legally parked? I thought there was a distance, I was going like 15 feet, but I don't remember.
Stop signs, I believe, are 50 feet.
If it's a stop sign, it's
Yeah.
50 feet, okay, if it's not a stop sign,
Then it's kind of a gray area. It might be down to 15. I
okay.
don't remember exactly. Have to do a little research to remember.
So if there's a stop sign, you can't park within 50 feet of the curb, corner. So, and we don't, does anybody, I know you, but do you get calls, people complaining about people parking too close to the corner?
All the time.
Okay, I saw it a lot, and I just didn't know if it wasn't being enforced, or, because then it's all gone the next time I go over there. It's not transient, but temporary parking. So 50 feet's quite a ways. And we don't paint, you could theoretically paint the curb yellow, right, Mike? To say no parking?
Cost effective that we.
I know it's expensive, but I don't want it, I'm just saying, theoretically, you could paint that.
You could, but it's kind of like a fire hydrant. Everybody knows 10 feet from there, so it's written in statute for that.
My wife has to remind me about the fire hydrant.
You're one of those people.
Yeah,
Okay,
50 feet.
then more to come on that one. So last thing in, I shouldn't say last thing. Moving on to needs further analysis, I'm gonna jump to the first one, the Candlewood curve. Let's move this to completed, because we've been watching this for a bit now. There's no additional concerns, so let's progress this along, and if it comes back around, we can bring it back.
Okay.
And then my last question, this has kind of been lingering for a short while. We were all unclear last time we talked about it. In an outside of scope, the very last row, Lock Haven left turn lane, where is this? And we were wondering, David, if that was something you added? Because the time we talked about it, you weren't here and none of us could remember what we were talking about.
I'm not aware of it.
Okay. Does anyone have objections to removing this? Because nobody knows what it is?
Doesn't even say where.
Right, that's where we're lost. So maybe it's what we've already been discussing? Let's just
Yeah,
remove
I mean,
it.
maybe,
Okay, gone.
yeah.
Thank you. All right, does anyone have any others in the spreadsheet that I've overlooked? Okay. Oh, this needs to go away. There's nothing to discuss in major projects, that's just FYI for anyone who wants to see it. New business, red light cameras, we wanted to continue the discussion from July. I did send out at the very last minute through Dawn, the webinar information about the change. Did anybody call in and watch that? I was unable to. David, did you?
I appreciated getting it, but unfortunately I saw it after the fact.
Okay, yeah, I know it was last minute. It was buried in my emails, so I was busy. It was just a short webinar that talked about the change in the laws that allow us as cities to put in the red light cameras, and Mayor Clark has asked us to discuss this, but I really don't have a whole lot to add. Oh, one thing I did want to correct on record, unless I totally misunderstood, Officer Powell, when we talked about this before, you had mentioned that you thought the only really concerning intersection that had people going through red lights was Stadium and Lock Haven?
Stadium might be the wrong one. It's, where Shamawa, Lock Haven, Keizer Station.
That's what I thought,
that
okay.
one.
The big one,
The big one.
Yeah,
okay.
so, yeah, what's that road name?
Yeah, it's Keizer Station,
Okay.
Lock Haven, Shamawa.
Main intersection.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought we were talking about, but I
Yeah,
just wanted to
think I said
correct.
Stadium, and that's incorrect.
Yeah, that confused me the other day when I'm like, Stadium is way down by In and
Yeah.
Out, so I just wanted to make sure I was on the right page, thank you. But still, I don't know anything to talk about with these just yet, so we'll just keep this as, yes, sir?
I thought we talked about it and that maybe I'm confusing it with something else, but we didn't have the number of red light runners to justify.
We didn't have any data at the time we talked, and Dave remembers there being a discussion a while back about the costs being significant, and that's where we all realized we didn't have enough information to even have a conversation yet.
Well, yeah, I looked up one thing. You can't run red light cameras as a profit-making activity for the police department. I mean, it's a no-no. And so the idea that you're gonna put a red light camera in, you're gonna generate, say it costs you $20,000, you're gonna generate $30,000 in fines. First off, if it works, you're not gonna generate anything in fines the second year, if it really did work well. And so then from then on, it's just a cost loser, okay? And the second one is, there's some questions about whether you have to have, how many people are involved. I have a friend that's a ex-retired state police officer, and he was hired by the city of, I think it was either Newburgh or Wilsonville, somewhere up there. And he goes and sits for 8 hours a day in a van or motorhome, because he has to be a witness to the people running. Can you explain that, officer?
Yeah, the citations have to be issued by a sworn person, okay? They can't be just automatically generated from the computer. The videos have to be viewed in person, say, yes, that car truly did commit a violation. And then you have to be able to look through the driver's license and identify who the driver is to issue the citation to the right person. I don't know the exact details, but Salem PD, there are at least two, and I don't know if they're full-time or part-time, there are at least two employees that is what they do. That is their job, to monitor their red light and speed cameras.
Yeah. Now, just as a rough idea, my recall is that to hire you, somewhere between 150 and 200, it may be more than $200,000 a year. And when you start talking about hiring, like the city of Keizer hiring 1 or 2 people, that's a hell of a lot of fines you're gonna collect even if you could apply it, and you can't.
Councilor Clore, what did you have to add?
Thank you, Chair Tammy. This subject came up a number of years ago in the Traffic Safety Bike Ped Committee, and I talked with Chief Teague about it at the time, and he said that there was one company basically that built all these things, and that they are the ones that actually take the profit from it, and it's nothing that the city gets, and it would take an awful lot more traffic than we have to justify ever putting one of those in. So that's what I recall. And does that make sense?
Yeah, kind of like, basically, yeah.
Would you mind finding out more about why this was brought to us then and what it is we're,
Well, it's interesting because I saw this on the agenda and it said, Kathy wants everybody to watch this portion of a presentation. I didn't watch the presentation, but when I asked her about it, she said, well, the laws have changed now and it makes it more feasible. But even if it's more feasible, and even if we can now take some of the profits, I don't see that we have the traffic to justify it. but that's just me. There may be something else going on.
I just don't know where to go with this.
Well, did anybody watch the little meeting?
No, but it may have been recorded, so let me try to track that down. Okay, I'll do that, and then I'll come back if I could do so, and then we can go from there.
Seems like speeding is more of a problem than red light running on River Road.
And I think the webinar was titled Speed Cameras, but I know that they're the same thing, aren't they?
Would-
No.
No, I don't think so.
No, a speed camera would just, if you're violating the speed limit, it'll flash and take a picture of it and say, this is what your speed was. That's quite a bit different than a red light camera that just says that you went past the yellow and now it's red and boom, we have a picture of you going through a red light.
Right, but I thought a lot of the red light cameras did both, and so in my head, that's what we were talking about.
I'm not aware of any that do both.
Do the red light cameras also track speed?
Yes, there are some, I know Salem has some, that if you happen to speed up to get through the red light, you can get a citation for both.
Okay, then let me get clarification to know if we're looking at two different things here, or, yes, sir.
But that camera wouldn't, if, let's say you were speeding, you didn't go through a red light, right? It was green or even yellow. But you were saying doing 40 and a 35 or 45 and a 35. Would those type of cameras take your picture and?
Yes, they're independent. The speed and
Okay.
a photo red are different.
Okay.
They're-
So-
It could, if it's a green light and you're speeding through it, you can get a speeding ticket.
Oh, okay.
Or if you try speeding through a red light, you could get both.
Okay.
Okay, I'll get some clarification on this. Yes, Counselor?
Thank you, Chair. One of the questions I think that I have is, are you seeing a lot of people running red lights?
No, because the difference of the violations for the red light cameras, the light has to be red before they enter and cross over that crosswalk or the stop bar. Most people I'm seeing, which I can stop and educate, and depending on how severe, they will try to speed up and beat the yellow. They will be in the intersection when it turns red, but that's not going to trigger a camera.
Thank you very much.
Okay, more to come then. Next is committee member input. Dave, you want to go first?
Yeah, Mike, you sent us this, something about walkable cities?
Yeah.
Okay. Just a comment, I don't know if anybody else read it or not, but it talks about making a walkable city and how important it is, and they show wonderful pictures of some place that's nowhere near Keizer. I looked at it and said, well, I've lived in cities and stayed in cities, and I choose to live in Keizer, but Keizer outside of maybe 2 blocks within Chemawa and River Road isn't a city. I mean, it's a suburban area. There aren't any clusters that would force 50 or 60 people to be out walking in a 1 hour period of time. It seemed that if we want to talk about pedestrian activities, we ought to decide, or the city should decide, what we're going to call the core city of Keizer and kind of ignore the rest of it for a while. And I looked at it for about a half hour, looking, saying, I don't think anybody's going to walk much. I see them, but not much, north of Lock Haven and south of Dearborn. Those people are scattered far and few between. Most of the walkers occur in that, it's not a half mile, okay? And going the other way is hardly at all, 1 block either side of River Road for walking. Maybe you could take Chemawa up to the traffic circle, but that's about it. There aren't very many people walking. So we're kind of in a bad spot to ask for either wider sidewalks, more crosswalks, more signals, whatever. And plus, we're constrained by all the property lines right now. I would love to be able to widen River Road or to double the width of the sidewalks, but you don't have the property, and we surely don't have the money to buy the property. So that was just my thoughts about it. Okay, Mike?
Well, I appreciate that, but what I would say to that is, the bit of the field of dreams kind of thing, you know. Sometimes you have to build it to make someone feel comfortable to walk and bike. And by not doing it, by not making them comfortable to walk or bike, to expect them to walk or bike is saying, we're not gonna give you something to make you feel better about it, but we're gonna expect you to do it. Versus, like, here's a good example, the turn, and this because it's near my neighborhood, the turn lane off of Lock Haven to 14th that takes you up to Gupser, et cetera. Like, yeah, there was probably a backup problem right there, right in front of Whitaker and all that. So we gave drivers something to make their driving better or more efficient, right? So the whole point of that walkable cities is, how do you make things more appealing for walking and biking? And it can't be it's not gonna be where everyone's gonna get everything they want. In order to have a walking and biking city, cars are gonna have to be less efficient, and that's gonna annoy people. But you can either yield more ground to cars, or you can yield more ground to bikes and peds. And so that thing that you saw that I sent is really about trying to do it, eating the elephant one bite at a time. Now that we have the River Road, not revitalization, but that whole thing the city did a few years ago, but it's still on paper for the most part.
Yeah.
I don't know, like there's that house that got torn down. Don't know what street that is. I think it's near, gosh, do you know what I'm talking about, Mike?
Yeah, my understanding is they're putting duplexes in there.
Okay, so I understand that Keizer's gonna take a while to move forward to a more walkable city, but it's like you kind of nudge it here and there.
Well, I agree with you, except I'd like to nudge it in a narrow area. I'd like to nudge it between River Road and Rickman, down the other side of this building, and make it really nice to walk for those 4 blocks. I'd like to see us do something maybe with that whole conglomeration of stuff around Safeway.
Yeah.
And on River Road there, but you don't get to widen the sidewalks, and you don't get to,
Well, I think it's great that you're bringing these forward to us, so
Yes.
that we have these, available. And as we're talking, I'm thinking, moving forward, at some point, maybe we can put a survey out through the city to ask what people want and where, to give us an understanding if going that direction is even what we want as a city. Did you have something to add?
Yes, Chair, thank you. One of the things that we would need to have is some kind of a core. And at this point, we really don't have a core. Where is downtown Keizer?
yeah.
And that's one of the biggest challenges. As I've driven around to different cities in the county and in the state, almost everybody has a downtown. We don't have one. And until we have one, the dream of having a walkable area is pretty far out there. Now, there are some things that we're trying to do that will make some areas possibly more walkable. But until we have a core, it's got to be just a dream.
But it's nice to dream.
No, I appreciate you bringing that to us. Just keep coming.
I would just like to comment that if the bulk of the submittal from the neighborhood association, which we didn't discuss greatly, but the bulk of it was basically talking about making that neighborhood walkable and how they appreciated the existing walking paths and the importance of maintaining those and actually creating more of those kinds of opportunities. So even though we don't have a core downtown, I think the idea of a walkable, bikeable neighborhoods is something that should be central to our community. And a lot of the problems we've been talking about the backup of traffic of people going to schools and We had a counselor here at an earlier meeting talking about the backup of traffic coming out of Keizer Station. All of those things, the best way to alleviate that is to reduce the number of cars on our road by increasing the number of people who are walking and biking. And some of that is very much how we design our community and how we move forward. So I don't think it's just a dreaming. And I've also been struck by how, at least in the retirement journals and things, how they characterize livable communities. The number one characteristic that they put out there is how walkable the community is. And so anyway, I think it's an important goal and something that as we plan our community and how we evolve, it's something we should always be looking at, and we should be looking for ways to connect our parks with off-road paths and that kind of thing.
Well, I agree, and thank you for that. Isn't it part of our strategic plan to include some of these elements? I can't recall where that landed.
It's always been in the plan to increase the number of sidewalks. We have a lot of our neighborhoods that don't have any sidewalks, or if they have them, it's pretty iffy. And so that's one of the reasons we keep working with the safe routes to schools. And when we have an opportunity to get some new sidewalks in, we do it, but it's very expensive.
Well, we've been discussing dialing in the grants and understanding when to apply and what we qualify and so on. So hopefully as we get that continuing, we can see some opportunities. Did you have more? Because we're on the committee reports. Okay. Did you have anything?
I was just curious because I was in Salem and they, on the Willamette bike route, the byway, they designated a greenway designation, so it's 20 miles an hour, and on top of it, there's a sign that says people walk, bike. And so I looked it up, and it's neighborhoods that are low traffic, low speed streets that prioritize people walking, bicycling, and rolling. And they connect neighborhoods, parks, schools, and business districts. I mean, right off the top of my head, I'm thinking like Rivercrest could be, and then we would be changing the speed limit legally to 20 miles an hour instead of 25. It was just this a little sign that says, on top of the speed limit, it says that it's a, anyway, I thought I'd throw that out there. It's like part of a walk. We might not be a city walkable, but we can definitely be a neighborhood that has streets that are prioritized for walking. And that has no sidewalks, so that'd make it safer. That's all I got there. I don't know what to do with that one. I don't know if there's somebody we talked to. It's the first time I've seen it. So I don't know if it's a new program for Salem.
Yeah, I don't know much about that one, but I know lowering the speed limit is involved, so.
No, but yeah, I agree. Except for I think if it's designated a greenway, that might be a path that's less involved. But I haven't looked into it. I just discovered it yesterday.
Well, if you learn more, let us know what you learned.
All right, so I'll put it on give us more info.
Okay.
Oh, and if any of you find info, let me know. But it looks like a path to picking particular streets there's like 2 parks on Rivercrest, and it's the path to get to the swimming pool and a couple high schools. So it would be reasonable, and lots of people always walking on it. So something like that is what I'm understanding that is for. And so not the whole neighborhood isn't 25 miles an hour, but that one particular road is. So, I thought it looked good.
Cool. Well, bring back more info.
Okay.
What you got, Mike?
I don't have anything other than, the thing I shared the other day, so.
Okay. David?
I have just basically a question as to maintenance on bike paths in terms of who's responsible. So there's been glass on the Chemawa overpass for weeks. I think there was probably an auto accident there, and it was never really cleaned up. And it's very much on the eastbound bike lane going up that overpass. There's glass and different things in Keizer Station on the bike lane. And there are issues like there's been for years ivy growing out on the bike lane on Verda, which I assume will be taken care of with the construction project. But it basically reduces the bike lane to 6 inches or something and pushes you into the traffic lane. So anyway, my question is just who's responsible for that in terms of who we should be drawing their attention to?
So we're complaint driven, and so if we don't know about it, we don't take care of it. But we get many calls for glass in the bike lane or after an accident to clean up. And if it's, I have the guys look at it, and if it's too big, we'll call Lawrence and have their sweeper come out and take care of it. When you mentioned Shamawa, that would be ODOT. We don't go take our brooms across the railroad tracks. But Keizer Station Boulevard, you mentioned that one. I know there was some underneath the big dig, I'll call it, on Keizer Station Boulevard. And we cleaned that up a week ago, and I don't know if you're talking about that, but, okay. And then our
I
sweeper goes
appreciate
by
that.
regularly.
I don't remember the specific spots, yeah.
Okay, but again, we're to, you know, an email, a phone call, and then we're on it.
Super,
quick.
thank you.
And in general, if there's a crash and a tow truck comes, they are responsible for cleaning everything up, for the record. It's not even up to the road department in that case. So I don't know what these crashes were or what they entailed, but am I wrong on this? Because that's what I was told.
That's correct, as long as it was reported and they call us. Sometimes if they just exchange and it was a little minor fender bender, whereas we're not required, it may leave those remnants.
Sure. But I just kind of want to put it out there that it is actually the tow truck's responsibility to clean up the crash if they're called. I thought that was interesting when I learned it, so I wanted to share. Okay, I have a couple things just to throw out there. So there's a work session on September 23rd between City Council and Equity Committee for putting together the rubric, or is it the volunteer committee? Yeah, because they want to put together questions for the, can you speak to that?
A little bit.
And then, really all I want to
attend-
do is
I
put it
attend
out.
quite a few of those meetings, but I'm not on the committee. It's the Community Diversity Engagement Committee, and the whole purpose of the committee was, when it was established, was to help bring all people in Keizer together. That was the whole purpose of it. And when they start talking about, oh, we're looking for equity and things, that's a little bit beyond the scope that was originally talked about. So currently, each counselor has an appointment, a member on that committee. And what they're considering doing now is changing that so that the volunteer coordinating committee would receive applications and interview them and make those appointments to the committee. And that's one of the things that we're going to be talking about at that work session, is whether that's a better way to do it or continue to have the direct appointment from the council. So that's part of the discussion, and I think they're assuming if we get to do that, then we want the following questions asked. One of the questions in my mind is, are we going to do that for all of the committees? If we have a vacancy on the Traffic Safety Bike Ped Committee, or is somebody going to come up with a set of questions that we need to ask those people? So I just think we need to be a little careful, but that'll be what the discussion is.
And that's why I bring this up, because we mentioned here last month that we would be interested in providing questions for that purpose. And so I intend to go, as long as my schedule allows it, but if anyone else wants to attend and listen in on what is discussed and know if that's ideas we can bring here, I would love to see you there. That's all I want to say.
Monday.
It's the 23rd.
Monday at 6 o'clock. It'll be riveting, I'm sure.
Some of those are really interesting. Okay. So the NTMP was presented to City Council on the 16th and accepted with a few minor changes, which was updated by city staff and sent to me. I just need to look at that to know if there's anything important, and then it's going to move forward. So the website should be up and running soon also. My hope is by next month, it is good to go, if not sooner. And so with me not being here, if it is in line and there's time allowed, I suppose you can maybe queue it up and take a look at it as a committee to understand how it's rolling out. Otherwise, we'll push that off, but hopefully I want it to get utilized as soon as possible. So, yay, finally got to the end of that road.
I forgot something.
Okay.
There's the fire department, I'm sorry about this. Fire department open house, I think it's October 7th. I'll email it out to you. It's from 5 to 9, basically, 6 to 9. We'll bring our helmets and we'll fit helmets. Usually we fit kids about 20, anywhere from 15 to 30 kids. Depending on how many show up.
And Hirsch passed a message along that he will be there as well.
Right, did he have the date down?
I don't have that in front of me, but I think 7th is correct, because.
It's like
It
the
is
7th.
correct.
Huh? The 7th, okay. It's a good event, a lot of people there.
6 years ago, Michael DeBlasi fit me a helmet, and I still have my red helmet.
Well, I should mention, we could use one, Herschel probably there, I'm not sure, I haven't talked to him. So I need somebody to help me.
Okay,
Let me know.
the 7th.
Just assume it's 5 to get things ready and say 6 to 8, 9, something like that.
Getting back to the traffic management.
Okay, first, before we switch topics, is anyone available to help?
I'm looking.
Okay,
Maybe I'll have to look.
if you could let the rest of us know through Dawn so that we can.
Well, let me know, and if you can, I can drag my granddaughter over,
Okay,
or my wife or something.
I like doing it, I just gotta verify.
Fun, yeah.
right, okay, more to come on that,
What
yes.
about your husband? Lance?
So we,
I know, I'll do it again.
that night we asked, Adam Brown about the website. Did we get was that a confirmed that it will happen? Like feedback on the program?
Oh, yeah, okay, so the feedback, we anticipate feedback once we do get it rolled out. And between city staff and us receiving that feedback, we're just gonna collaborate to make sure that we're all aware of what we're hearing, whether it's working, or not, more importantly. And then if it's something that needs to be fixed immediately, city staff can do so on their end. Otherwise, if it's something that we just wanna compile and do a major update in X amount of time, then that's what we would do. So, yes, we had an answer, but we're gonna kind of see where it goes and take it accordingly.
Okay.
In addition to that being accepted, our resolution update was adopted, so FYI on that, if you were sitting on the edge of your seat. Her said that, next month, we have planning, Shane from planning is coming to talk to us. I asked everyone for questions, we've received a few from Mike. No one else has contributed any, so if you do have any thoughts in mind on what you want to have discussed, planning.
Okay, I have them listed at home, I'll mail them.
Okay, send it to Don so that we can give him, a heads up on what we want to ask so that he can be prepared to answer questions. And then initially this was brought up because of the Keizer station traffic flow that, we were hoping for some insight into when that was planned and developed and so on. And so hopefully he can come with some information on that if there's anything to say. Especially with the new developments coming in, what are the thoughts on if that's gonna affect what we're seeing now, is it gonna perpetuate or make it worse and so on. So, I will not be here for that, but I look forward to hearing what is discussed. So a couple additional things. I've met with the Arts Commission now. We are getting the street art program rolling through them, and is not a traffic calming device, so it's nothing to do with our committee. I'm just sharing the news because it involves the street. They're going to lead it and work with the city on permissions and what that all means. So we'll just be aware of it happening. In addition to that art, Tammy Coons has been working with them on putting murals up around the parks to help with the graffiti. So instead of having a blank slate for them to decorate, we're gonna have murals put up and around. Again, that has nothing to do with us, I'm just sharing the news. And then lastly, pedestrian flags, we've been approved to, the city says we can move forward with a pilot. So more to come on that as we get that rolling. We are not, the city is not funding or having a large involvement in it, but there will be some involvement that we're working through. I chatted with Mike about just earlier. We'll see more to come on that, but just know that this is exciting news because we've been talking about it for quite some time. That's all I have. Anyone else have thoughts? How do we get a new student liaison? We mentioned to Ethan before he left the need of him letting us know how to reach students with the correct, outreach, but I know he,
There's leadership programs at the high school. I assume they have one, the leadership class. So that seems like a good place to go.
do you know who to talk to?
Oh, but I bet I can figure it out.
Would you? Just so make sure that, even though I know there's mechanisms city already uses, but maybe one additional, we can get someone to join our team. Okay. Does anyone have anything before we adjourn? Oh wait, we didn't finish. We didn't go through city staff reports. Sorry, I was so excited that we were talking about so much stuff. I apologize. Mike, what you got first?
Thank you, Chair. Fiber update from the beginning of September. And the update I have is Salem's waiting on IT to rebuild all the IP addresses so the system can communicate back and forth. And I did not have a timeline as far as when that would be accomplished. It's a pretty big job, so they're just continuing to work on it. And as I know more, I'll let you all know. The second one I have, our paving project for this season wraps up next week. H&H has one street left to do, and then they'll be done for the year, so. And I had other things, but we discussed them as we talked throughout the meeting, so that's what I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Officer Powell, tell us about your hunting trip.
Too long of a story. But yeah, obviously, it sounds like I've got the speed survey on Alder to do the second phase of, another one on Harmony based on a complaint. Got a couple different small neighborhoods with different speeding complaints, and speak a little bit about the Newburgh, Lock Haven school issue. When the first time I saw that video was the first time I was made aware of that issue, so I can't deal with it. If something, like you said, I'm kind of complaint driven. If I don't know about it, I can't target it. This is obviously the beginning of the school year. They've had some construction. I have not made it there yet because the construction on the roadway on Newburgh just kind of finished up. So I'm trying to let things get back to a little bit normal before I go evaluate and see how big of a problem that is.
Excellent. Yeah, I was joking at the fact that it solves the problem if they just shut the intersection down, which is
Yeah.
what they did on multiple mornings. Northwest Natural was putting in a new pipeline, so everything was just shut down. And so maybe that like retrained everyone to find a new way of getting to school is what I was hoping for. Thank you for all that. Counselor Kohler, what can you share with us?
Thank you, Chair Tammy. I just wanted to say, Mr. Philbrick, I had a number of people talk about the obstacle courses that we started putting together in some of the bike paths, and that they were having fun with those. So I guess there's some people that really like the obstacles in the bike paths. And so anyway, we'll work on that. It's always been a dream of some people in the city to have a path that goes all along Claggett Creek from the Martin Luther King Jr. Expressway all the way down to the corner of Lock Haven and River Road. And that's getting closer as we talk about different possibilities of easements and obtaining properties and things. So that might be something really fun to have. It would make a great bike and walking path that could be very enjoyable and would probably increase the usage of, less usage of homeless in different areas along Claggett Creek. So we find that the more people that there are, the less the homeless want to be there. So that's pretty encouraging, and I hope that actually happens someday. It's been a big dream, and we've been talking about it for eons. And then I just again wanted to say congratulations to all the hard work that's been put on for the recent update, and that's been a monumental task, and just kudos to the committee for all the work that's happened with that. It has not gone unnoticed.
That's it?
That's it. Unless you want me to go on, I'm sure I could talk for another half hour, but I don't think you want to listen to me.
We'll save it for next time now.
I will also say that with the resignation of Mr. Hussman, that he's been of course, your liaison here for since he was elected, and Mayor Clark didn't feel that it was right to just assign one of us permanently to this committee, but we'll probably in January, after the election, new committee assignments are made, that you'll get a permanent one. In the meantime, you'll get different ones of us from time to time. So this was my month.
Excellent. Well, thank you for being here with us today.
It's a pleasure.
All right, if no one has anything more, then we are adjourned at 7:40.